Hey dolls, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm actually going to go over a few quick sewing techniques with right angles, rounded edges, and the importance of a technique called understitching. And what is understitching, you ask? Well, I am going to tell you. Understitching is simply a stitching line that you do close to the edge of a facing to keep it from rolling toward the outside of your garment. It comes in really handy when you're sewing around necklines and when you're using facings or linings, and basically what it does is it makes the edge of your garment look crisp. This technique can be used in all different ways, and in this video I'm going to show you a few of my favorites. So let's jump right in. And first things first, I have actually done a couple of samples here to show you. Now this first sample is just basically, I took two pieces of fabric and I sewed them together and turned them right sides out and pressed the edge. Now you can see that that edge still has a little bit of bulk to it. This is a sample with the understitching. And I did this in a contrasting thread. Obviously, if you're doing this on a garment, you're going to match your threads. But you can see this edge right here, it looks so crisp. And another perk of this is if you're doing like a sleeve or a collar that you don't want any top stitching showing, this is the best way to achieve that. And you can see how that just lays really flat against your body. So cool. And then I'm showing you both of the samples side by side so you can see the difference between the back stitching and the non-back stitching. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take two pieces of fabric right sides together. Like I said, this is a really simple two-step process. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to sew right sides together, and then you're going to take your fabric out of your machine and you're going to open it up so you have the right side facing toward you. Now on the inside of the garment, when your camera focuses, one video please, one video, focus. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to decide which side that we want this flap to lay on, which would be your lining side. So just for argument's sake, we're going to say that looking on the right hand side of the fabric, this is my lining. So we're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from that seam. And I'm just using a regular foot. I mean, you can use an edge foot. I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, you need to do what's comfortable for you and what works for you, and just kind of play around with this technique. So then when you turn your fabric to the back, you'll see the two parallel lines right here, and they might look kind of messy, but that doesn't matter because it's going to be on the inside of the garment. And then I'm just showing you here with a finger pinch that after doing that stitching, even just finger pinching the side of this fabric, it already wants to lay flat. So now I'm going to show you right angles, and then we're going to incorporate this back stitching into your right angle as well. Now I've already marked off the lines on the back side of this fabric. Obviously, you might already have the inside of this cut out, but I am kind of a ding-dong sometimes, and I don't pre-think some of these things. I'm just keeping it real. So I didn't cut out the center, but when you're stitching right angles, always make sure that when you pivot your fabric, your needle is in the down position when you pivot, or else you're going to get like jumpy, squiggly lines, and you don't want that. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the center piece right here. And I'm just doing, I don't know, about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch away from the edge. That's not the important part. The important part is you're going to want to take a really good sharp pair of scissors and cut into the corner. Now you want to cut as close to your stitching line as possible without actually hitting your stitching. Zoom you in real tight here. So we'll go ahead and we'll stitch, or we'll cut all the way close to that stitch. Kind of pull your fabric apart and make sure that you didn't get that stitch, because if you did, it's going to unravel through time and you'll have to resew it. And then we'll go ahead and snip the other side, and then we're going to turn this to the right hand side of the fabric, right sides out. And you can see, just finger pinching the edge of this, there's still a lot of bulk in that edge. And we'll go ahead and pin the corners while we're turning this out. Now, when I do my pressing, depending on the type of fabric that I'm working with, I will use a fabric clapper. And I am going to go into a little bit of detail about a fabric clapper. They really do help with getting crisp seams as well. So I will definitely show you that toward the end of the video. Now when you're doing your right seam, you see this? It looks like there's like a little ruffle in your edge. Now if you turn your fabric to the inside, you can kind of see right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We need to clip quite literally like maybe 2 threads, and those 2 threads can be the difference of that pucker and not having a pucker. Now like I said, you want a really good pair of shears. Now this is one of my favorites. The tips of those are kind of blunt, so you can get really close to your stitching line without actually going through it and see what you're doing. And then these ones, and I'll put links for these in the description box, but these ones are amazing. They have a little bit of, it's not really a serrated edge, but they have like kind of a rigid edge on them, but they cut through fabric so perfectly. And if you're looking to cut like 1 or 2 threads, these are like the best scissors for it. So we're going to come in here. Like I said, I'm literally just snipping like maybe 2 threads. And then we'll open it back up. And you can see that that 2 threads that I clipped literally was the difference of having a pucker and no pucker on that corner. And it's really that easy. It's just about checking it. But I'm going to blow your mind a little bit further. In order to make this lay flat the way that we did with just a straight seam, you can do that same back stitching on any shape, as long as you can get it through your sewing machine. So we're going to use this side over here as the lining, and you just want to make sure that you get that flap on the inside, which is your seam allowance, and you want to finger press it toward your lining. And then we're going to go ahead and sew down till we get to the point, and leave your needle in the down position and lift your foot, reposition your fabric. And like I said, just take your time with this. And now that we're done stitching it, we're going to go ahead and turn it to the right side again. And sometimes after you stitch through some fabrics, like you can do this with a stretch fabric as well, you'll definitely have to take it over to your iron and give it a good press. And there you have it. That is the pressed edge, and look at how sharp those corners are. I didn't know this technique for the longest time while I first started sewing, so this was kind of like the saving grace when I finally learned this. It like really will change the outcome of your projects. So the awesome thing is you can do this with rounded edges as well. And obviously if you have patterns that you're doing, you know, various different necklines, there's always a round neckline. There can be square necklines. They can have like the decorative ones. So I'm going to show you on the round one, and I cut the center out because this is how your pattern would probably come anyway. And we'll go ahead and stitch. And I think I'm just stitching a 1/4 inch away from that edge. Not even where I marked, because I'm crazy. And I'm going to show you 2 different treatments on a rounded edge. Now, there's the typical treatment. Now, my mom taught me this when I was really young, and that's just doing your snips with your scissors. And you just put little clips along the edge. Personally, for me, I grew out of doing this a long time ago. The way that I like to do it is I like to take a pair of really good pinking shears, and I like to snip probably about 1/4 inch away from the seam. And the reason that I like to do this, it keeps your fabric from fraying, and it also is very uniform, so you don't have those snips that'll show through the right side. If you're working with a really delicate fabric, sometimes these little clips that you put in the fabric will show through on the other side of the fabric after you press it. And for me, personally, I think it looks kind of tacky, and it looks like you overpressed or something. Anyway, so same thing. We're going to go ahead and backstitch, and I'm going to zoom you in here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. You want to always make sure that you're looking to the back of your fabric, and you're using your fingers to tell you that that seam allowance is getting caught, because it's sitting on the back side of the fabric where it belongs. Now I'm going to go ahead and finger press this, and you'll be able to see the difference. One side where I did the snips, and the other side where I did the pinking. So you can see that they both lay flat, but the one over there on the left-hand side is the side that I did the snips in. And personally, for me, like I said, I don't particularly care for it. You have to put too many of those relief cuts in, but do what you do. Anyway, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the clapper. They come in all different shapes and sizes. And basically what a clapper is it's a piece of wood that's been treated. And it's basically a raw piece of wood, but I think they use a special oil on it. And you place it over the top of your fabric, and it will remove the steam and the heat from your fabric and give you a really fine, crisp edge. So on top of doing the understitching and you use a clapper, that's really going to set your fabric in. Like, you'll see once you use a clapper and you put it over the top of your fabric and it'll create a crease. If you have to go and take that crease out of the fabric, it's like really hard to iron out because you use the clapper to like remove the moisture and the heat all at once. It's a really great tool. I would highly suggest investing in one, or at least trying it if you've never used one before. Anyway, I hope these tips helped you guys out and you learned something from it. And if you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comment section below. So my talented boyfriend is actually a luthier, so he custom handmade these clappers for me. He basically asked me for different specs, like the size and everything that I wanted them, just because I do a whole bunch of unique types of costuming, and I do a lot of sleeves and collars and stuff like that. So I wanted one that was a little bit bigger than the normal ones that you would find in the store, and he made these, and yeah, they're fantastic. I love them. Thanks again for taking the time out of your day to hang out with me and check out some sewing tips. If you had any suggestions, definitely let me know. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel before you leave. Follow me on all other social media, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.